So a very interesting question has come out of I think Game uh, Rant.com, which is, would you play what is it, Shadow of War, the new or sequel to the latest Lord of the Rings games? Like, would you play that if it was on the Nintendo Switch? Which I don't even know why this is a question. Now let me explain why I don't understand why this is a question. The Switch is very popular. It's a very popular system. People love it. People hate it because it's Nintendo. People love it because it's Nintendo. People hate it because it's Nintendo. People are mixed bag of emotions because it's Nintendo. But let me explain something to you. I don't think that a lot of people who hate it because it's Nintendo hate it because it's Nintendo. I think a lot of people don't understand why they hate this thing. They don't like it because of what it represents, in the sense that, oh, this thing holds potential to change the entire game. All puns included there. It holds the potential to change over everything. And I think that scares them. I don't think they hate it because it's a Nintendo device. I think the main reason they hate it is because it has the biggest potential of everything to change over the way Sony and Microsoft do things. And with Sony and Microsoft being their main way of things and the way they've done things for the past years, for the past 3 decades, or well, with Sony the past couple decades, and with Microsoft the past 2 decades, you have their main thing being you have to be connected to a television. You have to be able to sit on a sofa, or in my case, sit on my bed. You have to have a television. With Nintendo, they're changing that. They're changing everything, and the Switch is a threat to that. And it's with it being so popular, it's forcing these companies to look at things in a different light, and that scares the consumer. It scares Sony. It scares Microsoft. And with that being that, I think it scares them because they don't know whether or not Sony, especially Sony and Microsoft, they don't know if they were to do this, would they have the same success, especially with Sony and their potential to fail consistently in that kind of a market. Okay, you can say what you want to, but it fails. Okay, the PS Vita failed, the PSP failed. You can say that's not true. It sold great, yes, but selling great and being a successful system during its lifespan are two completely different things. I can go through and point out how the PSP was a failure at the end of its life. I can go through and point out how the Vita is a failure during its lifespan. And you'll have to follow me here, but let's talk the PSP first. The PSP came out, and when it came out at the beginning, it sold great. Same thing with the Vita. It came out and it sold great. But there was this thing that happened with the PSP. It came out within the first 3 years at the end of the PS2's life, and then the PS3 dropped. What happened? The PS3 came out. Sony's focus shifted. They dropped the PS2, and when they dropped the PS2, unfortunately the PSP felt that drop as well, because all their focus went from last gen. They considered the PSP last gen as well, so all their focus shifted over to the PS3. And if you look back at the marketing for this, you can see this. I'm not making this up. You can see this. All of it shifted to the PS3. And when the PS3 did not catch as hard and as fast as they wanted it to, you can tell, like, I think second year, maybe 2.5 years into the PS3's life, you'll see the marketing for the PSP start up again. And that's when they had people come on, like that little kid. I can't think of his name. I didn't keep up with it. He tried his damnedest to sell games. That other guy who they hired and fired quite a few times, he accidentally sold some Xbox Connects while making fun of it. He did some jokes with that little kid in his commercials as well. It didn't help. Okay, and again, there were a few years where the PSP was just flatlined. It was dead. There was no games for it because all Sony did was push the PS3, and it solely survived on the indie titles and RPG market. But then when they tried to revive it, they were putting out big AAA titles like Kingdom Hearts, another God of War title, Metal Gear Peace Walkers and shit like that, but it still could not survive because again they had that period of a couple years, like 2-3 years, where it was solely surviving on indie titles and RPG titles, and that was a huge, big time fuck you to the fans, and they just didn't, they were not happy with that. And then now we move over to the Vita. This is their portable device now. This is why I say the fans are worried. This is why if you're a fan and you look at the way the Switch is doing, you have to be worried where the market would be going with Sony and Microsoft, because Microsoft has never entered this. We get to the Vita. And unfortunately with the Vita, we all know the problems with the whole 3G thing, with it only having one network when there's multiple carriers out there. We know the problem with the memory card when they should have went with the standard marketing with the memory card and using regular cards that you can just throw in your cell phones or your tablets, and they made their own ones, pretty much screwing over everybody, making their handheld the same price as an overall console. We know those. We know that for some reason they wanted to make already made games that were already available on the PS3 made for the Vita and not have as much original content. I mean, seriously, you can look at the Vita and see that there's not that much original content, and it fell into that kind of pit again where it solely relied on indie titles and a whole bunch of RPGs made by, kind of small developers. And this is before PS4 and the rise of indies, okay? And nobody was really buying into that. You know what I mean? This again, Vita came out during the PS3 now. Indies really hit during the PS4. This is before this, okay? But a lot of the original titles during the beginning of the Vita were like Gravity Rush, Uncharted, The Golden Abyss. You had Call of Duty Black Ops Declassified. And those games still didn't make a big enough splash. You get what I'm saying to you? And this is why if you're a fan of Sony's, you have to be worried that, oh, well, the Nintendo Switch is doing great. Okay, you have to be worried because if this thing continues to do great, then this thing might turn out to be the way we start to see games being received, how we might start to see things being received, and how this market might shift over to, okay, we want home consoles, but we want them to be made to where we can have them on the go. Because this thing does great. You know what I'm saying? And with Sony and their failures in the market on handhelds, maybe Sony's not going to be able to keep up. And with Xbox never being able to even enter that, maybe Xbox just isn't going to be able to do anything. You know what I'm saying? That, I think, scares people over more so than anything, okay? And people are more loyal to their Xboxes and Sony products than anything, okay? Because they don't consider Nintendo anything. They consider it a kiddie console and that shit, when in fact they grew up playing Nintendo. Okay, a lot of people out there grew up playing Nintendo, and I'm not defending anything. I'm just saying, if you grew up playing Nintendo, think about it. You're a grown person now. How would it be considered a kiddie console when you, in fact, grew up playing it? Chances are you still have one that you still play to this day. You're a grown person who still plays your Nintendo. If it's so kiddie, why are you still playing it? Feel me? Now, here's another thing to throw out there, just to throw it out there, okay? Portability is becoming one of those things that a lot of people really enjoy because it's real quick to turn on, real quick to turn off, and toss it to the side, be done with it. Okay, that's another thing. You can't do that with a PlayStation 4 or an Xbox One. You can turn it on real quick, play a little bit, turn it off, but are you going to be able to turn it back on and be at that same spot? Chances are no. With the Switch, that's very, very possible. That's something I've been able to do quite a bit of. You could turn it off real quick, turn it into something called sleep mode, and bam, you're good. You're good. Okay. And like you got, like I said, you got Doom, you got Skyrim. They're talking about this, sequel for the Lord of the Rings game, possibly. You know, people have been talking about Grand Theft Auto 5, LA Noire, Resident Evil Revelations 2. All these bigger titles are starting to come to Nintendo now, and I think it's because they like the idea of the portability of the system and the ease of the system. Now, that's not necessarily bad. A lot of people want to downplay it because, oh, well, it's going to be a dummier version of the game. A lot of these games are the dummier version of the game because they are watered down. They are re-releases. Okay, they're not really superior in any way. Okay, I don't think a lot of people can figure that out. I mean, think about it. When you buy an MP3, if you're into music, a lot of people tell you you want the best sound from music to buy the record. But more people buy an MP3, but it's not the best sound you can get. The best sound you can get to a lot of music heads is on vinyl records. Think about that. Okay? A lot of people look for first prints when it comes to books. People prefer VHSs or the I think there's like only a few who can buy like laser discs on movies and shit like that. I mean, there's a lot of original prints, but I'm not saying it takes away from anything. But I'm definitely gonna say, like, the gaming market is definitely going in the way of digital, and if these games can definitely be put on those little SD cards for the Switch, and the ROM file can be made to be run digitally, maybe you can run that shit through the Switch digitally if it can be made to run on the Switch at all, making it easier regardless of frames per second and all that other whoop-de-woo that you're complaining about. And I've brought this up before. This is the first iteration of a machine like this. And with that being said, this could definitely be seen as one of those, with the second generation of a Switch console, more powerful. You know what I'm saying? With it being more powerful, maybe they could find a way to make it more powerful and the battery lasts longer, okay? Because again, we've never seen a machine like this where anything is happening. You get what I'm saying to you? Because again, the first thing of anything is there's going to be a lot of bugs, there's going to be a lot of kinks and all that stuff in there that they got to figure out ways to work around, okay? So with this being the first one, okay, the next one could be longer battery life, more power, and all that stuff, okay? I mean, look at the way the controllers used to be. The very first PlayStation controller ever never had a joystick. Never. It didn't. It had a D-pad. That's it. And then the second one had the joystick. A lot of people don't remember that, okay? And it grew from there, okay? So just because it's the first iteration doesn't mean it's going to be the best. So I'm saying all this because, again, a lot of people don't want to take time to just use their common sense and go, hey man, maybe this could be a good thing. And yes, I know it's hard to swallow and digest all this because they're like, oh, it's Nintendo and Nintendo da 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 da. But it's the only company in the gaming industry that's a gaming company at the moment. What else do we have? You see what I'm saying? We need to make sure that Nintendo stays alive. Sega's not here, children. So keep that in mind. While you're sitting there dogging Nintendo, wanting Nintendo to go under, Sony could be gone tomorrow. Microsoft could be gone tomorrow. For them to lose Xbox would be nothing. They still have computers. And computers have been around forever, but that's not really a gaming industry type deal. Feel me? And with Sony, they produce shitloads of other devices outside of PlayStation. They've always had shitloads of other devices outside PlayStation. People tend to forget that. So if they lost PlayStation and Sony, I mean, you're not really looking at a whole lot of money there, but you're looking at them possibly closing the door because they have, as a company, shifted their focus from everything they have to one product. You get what I'm saying? So I can understand, oh, well, if they don't focus on PlayStation, they're going to close their doors. That's their problem. That's their fault. They make way more than PlayStation, and they should be focused on everything. And I've talked about that before in the past, and I think that that's something that even the biggest Sony head could admit. They should focus on everything, not just PlayStation, but everything. Their 4K televisions, their Blu-rays, their DVD players, their cell phones, their fucking everything. Everything Sony makes, okay? But they only focus on PlayStation. And that's their problem, okay? But when it comes to overall gaming, Nintendo's the only overall company that's overall gaming. Feel me? So again, people want to say, oh, would you play this if it was on the Nintendo Switch? The answer is absolutely. Because for me, as I am, I cannot guarantee that I'm going to be able to play anything, no matter how much I want to play it, if it's on my PS4 or my Xbox One, because one, I gotta find the time to be able to sit down and play the damn game, and two, I'm kind of busy a lot, okay? I don't have time like that. That's one of the reasons why I haven't put out so many videos in so much time, is because one, I've been busy as hell. Two, I've been staying with my girlfriend for the past couple weeks, and three, for me, portable gaming is just so much easier than having to find time to sit down in front of a television. Okay, so the overall concept of it is just more simplistic. Okay, you might be different, and if you are, that's perfectly fine. You're more than welcome to be. But for me, and for a lot of other people, the answer is yes. And the reason is simple. I don't have time to sit down in front of a television. So if you put it on the Switch, the reason we bought the Switch is because I can easily turn it on, play it for however 5-10 minutes, hit that power button, put it in sleep mode, put it back in the dock, and it's waiting for me to pick it back up. That's the main reason. So the answer is, if you put that game on the Switch, will I buy it? More than likely I'm going to at some point. I might not on day one, but more than likely I will. And I will more than likely get around to playing it faster than I would on my Xbox or my PlayStation. And I will spend more time on it because I have the time to pick it up, play it for 5 or 10 minutes, then put it down, go about my day. And I don't think people who have a Switch give a fuck about frames per second. You can say I'm wrong there, but again, you're talking to a group of people who tend to be a little bit busier in their day-to-day lifespans than the person who sits down at a television. And this is how I look at people who have a Switch, because again, I'm thinking about people who own a Switch who bought it for the portability side. But that's just me, okay? Anyway, guys, I gotta go. Deuces.